Hello everybody, and you're very welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to be looking at Massey Ferguson, but not necessarily Massey Ferguson, but who put the Massey in Massey Ferguson? Who was the Massey family that became one half of the now famous agricultural machinery company? I think we're all well aware, especially in Ireland, of who Harry Ferguson was, and we spoke about him at length on this channel, and we've done a video on him if anybody cares to look back over it. But not too many people will be more familiar with the Massey end of it, the Massey family. So we're going to take a look at that and see where they came from, how it evolved into what it is today, pretty much from that Massey family into Massey Harris, and then became the Massey Harris Ferguson, and then of course the Massey Ferguson company. This is not a history on Massey Ferguson, it's a history on the Massey family and the Massey company as such. So before we get into that, just a couple of things that I want to mention. First of all, welcome to all the new subscribers, everybody that watched and commented on the last video on the Zetter. Thanks to everyone and all our new subscribers. And there's one thing that I just want to point out, that anyone that's from the Louth area, the Meath area, the Cavan area, there is a tractor run coming up on the 14th of July for young Wayne Smith. Now, a lot of people will know that Wayne passed away some years ago, 10 years ago now, I think, and this is his 10th anniversary. So Wayne was actually a cousin of mine, and he was taken way too soon. So the Wayne Smith Memorial Tractor Run is on the 14th of July, his 10th anniversary. Sunday the 14th of July, Bradley Farm, Lega and Castletown. So anybody that's from Meath, that's around that area, that's from Louth or Cavan, that would want to partake in it, something that's for a really, really good cause. Does music and entertainment afterwards. So every bit of help is appreciated, and every little bit of support is much appreciated for a superb cause. The other thing I wanted to mention was to everyone who has been taking part in my little midweek quizzes and stuff on the Facebook community page. Sorry, not the Facebook community page, the YouTube community page, where I post up, snippets of pictures of tractors and questions and whatnot, and try to get people to guess the answer, or use their knowledge to find out the answer. Thanks to everyone who has been partaking in that. It's just been a bit of crack for during the week or whatever. But when all that's said and done, now we'll get into today's video, and it is about Massey. So Daniel Massey was the man who started the company. Daniel Massey was born on the 24th of February 1798, and he died on the 15th of November 1856. And he was an American-born Canadian blacksmith and businessman in what is now Newcastle, Ontario. A member of the Massey family and a farm machinery pioneer, Massey began production of agricultural implements in 1847 and established what grew into, obviously, Massey Ferguson. So Massey was born in Windsor, Vermont in 1798 to Daniel Massey Sr. and Rebecca Kelly. The family relocated to Upper Canada sometime between 1802 and 1807, likely to acquire cheap land, as many Americans were doing so at the time. This would have been around a similar time and in a similar area to where John Deere was operating. They settled on a farm in Hardymand Township near the present-day Grafton. As a child, Massey was sent to live with relatives in Waterstown in New York, where he attended school. He returned to Upper Canada by age 14, at which point he took over the family farm, while his father and his older brothers joined the Upper Canadian Militia to fight in the war in 1812. He had two older brothers, one of whom died in the war, and he had at least one sister. So Daniel Massey, he was a seventh generation North American. He was descended from the Puritans from Cheshire in England. Geoffrey Massey arrived in America in 1630, first in Essex, Massachusetts, and later in New Hampshire and Waterstown, obviously in New York. So when we look at the career, so Daniel Massey himself, he left home in 1817, aged 19, and spent several years cleaning land for farms, which he then sold on. So he would have bought land as scrubland, barren land. So he spent his time, his youth at that age of 19, clearing land and selling it on. So he was obviously a little bit of an entrepreneur. So in 1930, he settled down in Hardyman to care for his own farm. So the same year, he brought a mechanical thresher, one of the very first, if not the very first, imported into Upper Canada, back from a visit to Waterstown, which was the start of his work and his fascination with farm implements. In 1844, Massey's son Hart took over the farm, while Massey himself tinkered with repairing implements in a workshop on the property. He sold the farm to Hart in 1847 and moved to the Newcastle area, where he partnered with Richard F. Vaughan, owner of the struggling foundry and blacksmith shop in Bond Head. In 1849, he bought Vaughan's share of the company and moved to a larger facility in Newcastle, where he set up the Newcastle Foundry and Machinery Manufactory. His son Hart then joined the company as a superintendent in 1851, becoming a partner in 1853 and sole owner in 1856 when his father Daniel had retired. Though Massey and his businesses were not prominent during his lifetime, Newcastle Foundry and the machine manufactory thrived. In 1870, Massey Manufacturing Company outgrew its Newcastle workshop and moved to Toronto. The firm merged with its main competitor A. Harris and Sons and Company Limited in 1891, at which point it became the Massey Harris Company, which produced the world's first commercially successful self-propelled combine harvester in 1938. Massey Harris purchased the Ferguson Company, obviously, in 1953 to form the Massey Harris Ferguson, which was shortened to Massey Ferguson in 1958. The company continues to grow and remains a top multinational farm implement manufacturer around the world. The business was headed by Hart and his descendants until 1926. Massey was inducted into the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame in 1981 after being nominated by Massey Ferguson Company. Just a very quick look then through his personal life. Massey married his childhood sweetheart, Lucine Bradley, in 1820. A Methodist family, they had 3 sons and 7 daughters. He died, as I said, on the 15th of November 1856 in Newcastle and is buried at Bowmanville Cemetery in Clarington in Ontario. Lillian Massey Treble was Massey's granddaughter. And his great-grandchildren included Vincent Massey and Raymond Massey. And his great-great-grandchildren included actors, very famous actors actually, Daniel and Anna Massey. He had another great-great-grandchild was an architect, and a civil servant great-great-grandchild called Lionel Massey. So not Lionel Messi, the footballer, Lionel Massey. So then obviously in 1891, the Massey Manufacturing Company merged with Massey Harris and Company to form the Massey Harris Limited, which became the largest agricultural equipment maker in the British Empire. Massey Harris obviously made threshing machines, reapers, as well as safety bicycles, and introducing a shaft-driven model in 1898. In 1910, Massey Harris acquired the Johnston Harvester Company in Batavia in New York, making it one of Canada's first multinational firms. Now, we will take another look down through the actual Massey Harris Company again in a little bit more detail. I'll have a quick rundown here, but I will take a closer look at the Massey Harris Company and the combine end of it, especially because that is what they were famous for at the time. So Hart Massey's sons, Charles, Walter, Chester, and Fred, became closely involved in the business and eventually took over its operations. They were the last generation of the Masseys to run Massey Harris. President Vincent Massey left to become a minister in the Mackenzie King government at the time. So when you take a look at the tractors, the Massey Harris tractors, the company's earliest tractor models included a 20 horsepower Massey Harris GP 1522, that was from 1930 to 1936. 25 horsepower Massey Harris Pacemaker, that was 1936 to 1939. There was 35 horsepower model then was the 101. That was 1938 to 1942, and the Massey Harris Pony Model 20, Model 81, and Model 744. The final generation of Massey Harris tractors introduced immediately after World War II included the 25 horsepower MH22 series, the 35 horsepower MH33 series, the 45 horsepower MH44, and the 55 horsepower MH55. obviously MH standing for Massey Harris. In 1952, the MH22 was replaced by the MH23 Mustang, and in 1955, the 30 horsepower Massey Harris 50 was introduced. After that merger that created the Massey Harris Ferguson Company, it was based on the TO35 that we all are very, very familiar with, and was also produced as the F40 for Ferguson dealers. So Massey Harris triple series tractors. So they remained in production roughly until 1958, when a lot of things obviously changed at that stage. When you had the introduction of the 35 model and then into the 100 series. So that is roughly it. That's Daniel Massey. That's where it all began. That's where the name comes from. Um, it was probably his son Hart that was more influential on the growth of the business at the time, and that merger with the Harris company that obviously became Massey Harris, that became Massey Ferguson. Daniel Massey himself was, he was obviously an entrepreneur, but during his lifetime, he wasn't anything huge or big or special. He was humble enough, but the business did go on, to merge and become the business that it was. The name obviously kept on, and it's still going today. It's still very famous today, all around the world. It's probably the name has been in probably every field, in every country of the world, at some stage or another. So that's it. There's one other thing I want to mention. Last weekend, I spent most of Sunday at the Galway Vintage Show up at Galway Racecourse. Um, a lot more horsepower there than what there will be in a few weeks' time when the races take place. But it was a good day. Got out to see more cars in it than tractors. A few machinery, a few tractors lying around. Some beautiful, nice John Deeres and a couple of Zetters and a few bits and pieces. Some nice stuff. And to a couple of people that did actually stop me, that recognised me from the channel, that said hello. Thanks a million for. I love having the chats with people and. Shaking hands and getting to know people. It makes me feel that at least I know the channel is getting out there. There's people actually looking at it. So if anyone ever does see me out and about at any of these shows around, please do feel free to stop and have a chat and tell me about what you have or what you don't have or what you'd like to have. Um, so yeah, that's it. There was loads of cars. There was some beautiful Opels, some Mantas. Now, if ever I had a few quid to spare in a car, I'd be getting myself a nice Opel Manta 400. Some obviously lovely Golf Mark 1 GTIs. Yeah, obviously Ford Model Ts, a lot of Ford Model Ts at it. So plenty to do, plenty to see. Yeah, it was a great day out, and the family enjoyed it as well. So look, that is it. That's another wrap up, another video. It's a short one, but obviously this has to be done before I move on to looking at the Massey Harris company. So just to get a little bit of a background on who the Masseys were. So I will be doing. Obviously, I have actually started already a fairly comprehensive video on the Massey Harris. Sorry, on the Harris company itself. Moving into the Massey Harris company. So we'll be taking a look at that in the next couple of weeks, and have a few other interesting videos, obviously in the pipeline as well. So okay, so that's it for this week. Everyone have a great week, and I will see you all next week. Thanks.